Hi, Francisco with BenQ here. Today I'd like to show you the out-of-box setup experience on your RPO4 series BenQ board. The out-of-box setup experience is going to prepare your BenQ board for day-to-day use for all of your end users. Prior to using your BenQ board for the first time, once you have it set up and mounted, you'll need to download the most recent firmware version from our BenQ product page. This is located at the bottom of each product page in the download section. This is where all of the most recent firmware and software downloads for our BenQ boards will be located. To install the latest firmware version on your BenQ board, you will need a USB drive of at least 16 gigabytes that has been formatted to the FAT32 file system. You're going to download the most recent firmware version, unzip the file, then drag that upgrade file into the root directory of your USB drive. Next, the USB drive will need to be plugged into the USB 2.0 port on the side of your board underneath the corner. Once you have your USB drive in place, you'll need to press and hold the power button until you see the circle with the flashing logo on it. Once this is completed, your BenQ board will have been updated to the most recent firmware and we can begin the out-of-box setup experience. Once the most recent firmware has finished uploading to the board itself is going to restart. We're now ready to begin the BenQ board out-of-box setup experience. First, we're going to select the language of the board. In this case, it'll be English, and hit Start. After a few minutes, the board is going to proceed to the next screen once it finishes loading its configuration files. Next, the board will prompt you to copy over any app and user data. For our setup, because of our backend services, we're going to go ahead and select Don't Copy. We're going to choose to skip the sign-in. Again, we're going to skip that user setup with the Google login because of the fact that we have the BenQ users that will be set up via the organization's preferred method. On this screen, we're going to go ahead and hit More and accept those Google service agreements. We're going to skip the screen lock setup and then skip Anyway. For system navigation, we can go ahead and just select that traditional navigation. This is really minimally impactful to the utilization of the board once we set up our BenQ services. So just using the default traditional navigation is probably your best bet. We'll hit Next. On the End User License Agreement screen, you'll need to scroll to the bottom before you are allowed to select the I accept checkbox and then hit Next. Similar workflow on the privacy policy. We'll scroll to the bottom, select I agree, Next. Now this is the most important step for the BenQ board setup, is the enabling of our BenQ services. Without this selection, your BenQ board will not be able to utilize our account managed system for user accounts to log into, nor will you be able to see it on your device management system for that remote management of your BenQ board. So please make sure that this has been toggled on and then hit Next. Once you select that Next button, your BenQ board is going to restart one more time to enable all of those BenQ services. Once the board restarts, you'll notice a prompt to enable your AMS account management service. For the purposes of the setup, you'll hit Activate later in the case that the board has not been set up on your device management services. To bind the board to your organization's device management, you can either go into the app launcher and the DMS client app, or you can also use a mobile device and our DMS Tools app to scan the serial number barcode on the side of your board with the DMS Tools app logged into an administrator account. This is especially handy if you have a large number of boards that you need to bind to your organization's DMS. Once the board has been bound to DMS, you can now activate the BenQ account management services on your BenQ board. To activate the AMS services on your BenQ board, you'll need to tap on the AMS service profile icon in the lower left corner of your screen, toggle on the AMS service, By default, the administrator password is set to admin, A-D-M-I-N, all lowercase. On this menu, you have the option to change the password for the local admin user. In the case that you choose not to change the password, you simply hit cancel and the BenQ board will leave the admin password as the default. One last step to set up your BenQ board prior to use is to update all of the onboard BenQ applications. To do this, you'll need to go into the App Launcher, then up to the BenQ App Store. Next, on the left side menu, you'll select the file folder with the down arrow. This will display all of the current BenQ applications that require updates. To do this, simply click on Update All. Once all applications are done updating, your BenQ board is now ready for use.